People don't know what to do with you when you stop playing dumb just to keep the peace. It's not even about being loud or proving anything. It's the way you start moving different. You stop picking up every call. You don't rush to defend yourself when they twist your name in some group chat. You just let it burn. And that silence, that makes people panic more than any confrontation ever could. They were used to a version of you that would beg to be seen right, heard right, understood. Now you're done handing out explanations like freebies. Let them sit in their version. You don't owe it to anyone to shrink just because they're uncomfortable with how far you've come. And the minute they realize you're not explaining yourself anymore, they start talking louder. Not because they're sure, but because they're scared you might actually be right. There's this switch that flips when you stop chasing closure, when you stop asking, why did they treat me like that? And start saying, that's who they are, cool. That's when the real power kicks in. Most people never get there. They stay stuck in cycles, needing answers that don't change a damn thing. The minute you stop needing it to make sense is the minute the game bends in your favor. They're still writing essays in their heads about why you went cold. Still trying to make it about what you did. That's what projection looks like. Them slapping their mess onto your calm and hoping it sticks. But you're not cleaning up what you didn't spill. Let them drown in the noise they created. Staying quiet isn't weakness. It's refusing to waste breath on people who never listened when you spoke with love. The thing nobody says out loud is how isolating real growth is. You expect claps. You expect people to get it. But what you get is weird energy, backhanded compliments, and silence that's louder than hate. People who said, I'm proud of you, now roll their eyes when your name comes up. It's not always envy. Sometimes it's discomfort. You remind them of everything they said they'd do and didn't. That's not on you. Your job isn't to dim down so they don't feel like failures. Your job is to keep walking, even if it means walking alone for a while. And yes, it's awkward. It's lonely. But you learn to like your own company more than fake vibes. People think success feels like trophies. Now, sometimes it just feels like eating dinner alone without a phone full of wide texts that never meant shit anyway. One of the hardest things is realizing how much you used to give, not just with money or time, but with energy, attention, patience. You kept trying to prove your worth by being the most loyal, the most understanding, the most forgiving. And for what? Half the time, they weren't even paying attention. They were just getting used to having access to someone who never asked for anything back. Now you ask for balance and they call you selfish. Funny, huh? But that's how it goes. The second you stop being a sponge for their bullshit, suddenly you're the problem. Let them tell it. But deep down, they know what it is. They just don't like the fact that you stopped letting them treat you like an emotional dumping ground. And that's not bitterness talking. That's clarity. It's wild how people act like you changed just because you stopped letting them manipulate you. Before, they could hit you with guilt, with silence, with tears, with sarcasm, and you'd fold. Now, you don't even flinch. You recognize the patterns. You see the little digs, and instead of reacting, you just nod and move on. That drives them crazy, because their whole game was based on your reactions. They needed you loud. They needed you defensive. But now you're sitting in peace. They can't access, and they don't know what to do with that. They start pushing harder, hoping to break you back into that old version. But there's no return address on that person anymore. They're gone. And the new one doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't explain. There's a moment when you realize people never really respected you. They respected your usefulness, the way you always showed up, the way you always gave the benefit of the doubt. That was the currency. The second you stopped doing that, they acted like you betrayed them. No, you just stopped funding a dynamic that only drained you. Now you're watching people walk away, not because you were wrong, but because they can't benefit from you anymore. And that hurts, sure, but it also clears the room. You start to see who was clapping out of love and who was clapping out of habit. It's not about hate, it's about honesty. Some people loved the weak version of you because it made them feel powerful. Let them go love someone else like that. You're done playing that role. Ever notice how calm looks like arrogance to people who only understand chaos? The moment you stop reacting, people start throwing words like cold, distant, heartless. Nah, you're just not leaking energy anymore. You're not explaining why you didn't text back. You're not apologizing for putting your phone on Do Not Disturb. You're not defending the fact that you said no without a 20-minute justification. That bothers people more than being yelled at. They want a fight. They want access. They want to feel like they still matter. And the best revenge, not even trying to give it to them. You're not punishing anybody. You're just prioritizing peace. And if that makes you the villain in their story, so be it. Better a villain in someone else's lie than a prisoner in your own life. Something weird happens when you stop trying to control the outcome. You stop stalking their pages, stop sending long texts, stop trying to fix what's clearly broken. And at first, it feels like giving up. But eventually, it starts to feel like freedom. Let people show who they are without your interference. Let the silence stretch. Let the distance speak. 9 times out of 10, the truth shows up without your help. And if it doesn't, that's still an answer. You learn that control is just fear in disguise. And what's funny is, the more you let go, the more things start falling into place. Not because you forced it, but because you got out of the way. That's when the score settles itself. No revenge, no drama, no performance. Just clarity. You ever notice how people act like you're being dramatic the second you put up a boundary? like you're doing too much just because you finally said, "Nah, that doesn't work for me." That's not on you. That's on the version of you they built in their heads. The version who never pushed back. The quiet one, the helper, the fixer. And now that you're not playing that part, they're confused, offended even. But here's the thing. Boundaries are only loud to the people who benefited from you having none. The ones who matter won't flinch when you say no. They won't disappear just because you're not available 24/7. And if they do, cool. That's the cleanup phase. Life removes what's not aligned once you stop clinging to it. When everything gets quiet and there's no applause, no messages, no validation coming in, that's when you see what you're really made of. Can you still move with self-respect when no one's watching? Can you still stay solid when the room goes cold? That's the part nobody glamorizes. The slow, unsexy grind of choosing yourself over and over with no audience. But that's where the foundation sets. That's where the old habits die. That's where you become unshakable. Not because you read a quote or watched a video, but because you lived it. You lost people. You stayed quiet. You held your ground. And now it's not about proving anything. It's about keeping your peace. That's the real win. Not attention, not followers, not even closure, just peace. And that's what they can't take from you. What nobody warns you about is the mind games that show up once you stop reacting. You'll notice people start testing you in subtle ways. They'll post things aimed at you, pretend to, check in, just to fish for details, or make up stories to mutuals to control the narrative. It's not always loud or direct. Some of the ugliest manipulation happens behind a smile. And the old you would have scrambled to defend yourself, tried to clear it all up. Now, you let them talk. Let them build their stories out of thin air. You're not in the business of correcting lies anymore. Because real ones know. And if someone believes gossip without checking in with you, they were never on your team anyway. It stings at first, yeah. But after a while, it feels good knowing your silence says more than their noise ever will. It's also wild how quickly people forget all the things you did for them once you stop doing it. They act like you switched up, like you got too proud or too distant. Nah, you just realized your love was being taken for granted. And the scariest part, you were the one pouring into empty cups while yours was cracked. Now you've patched it up and started filling it for yourself. They call it selfish. But they never saw the days you cried in silence, held your tongue when you were disrespected, or stayed when you should have walked. They never saw how many times you gave them the benefit of the doubt while they kept stacking reasons to walk away. So no, it's not pride. It's just that you finally stopped volunteering for pain. Let them adjust to the new reality, or not. Either way, it's not your problem to fix. What comes next isn't revenge, it's detachment. Not the cold, bitter kind. The quiet, freeing kind. The one where you stop obsessing over how they feel what they think, what they say. You stop trying to be liked, understood, redeemed. You just live. And in that space, you realize most of the weight you carried wasn't even yours. It was people's expectations, their projections, their disappointments. You were the scapegoat for things they never dealt with. But now you've put it all down. And the craziest part, life gets lighter, not lonelier. You don't miss them like you thought you would. You miss the version of yourself that didn't know better. That version's gone. This one knows peace. And once you taste it, you don't go back.